There are 7 billion people on the planet and nearly 5 billion cell phones, meaning most of the Earth's population is connected for sound and picture. The cell phone has brought us a world without end of talking, twittering, texting, and even sexting. If you don't know what that is, ask any high school kid. It is all result of Marty Cooper's big idea, and he looks at it with all pride and amusement. And with a good reason, he is the father of the cell phone. He built the first phone in 37 years ago. He made the first public cell phone call on the sidewalks of New York in 1973. This is the time when there were no cordless phones and certainly no cell phones. And here's this guy talking as he was walking along. I stepped into the street and nearly got creamed by a New York taxi cab. So talk about being prescient and seeing a picture of the future, Cooper told 60 Minutes correspondent Molly Safir. It's a future of non-stop connection of app galore, iPhones, Androids, Blackberries and Bluetooth. Or is it Bluetooths? Marty Cooper checks out the latest at the wireless industry's annual convention in Las Vegas, a huge convergence where geeks meet gizmos. And unlike some of us of certain age, he understands all of it. Cooper said, I signed up for Twitter about 6 months ago, did nothing, and I had 17 followers. So now I'm actually twittering. My latest Twitter is, the secret of successful aging is to have good genes and to show a lot of respect for the genes. If he thinks he is the oldest Twitterer in America, Cooper said, I don't want to be the oldest anything in America. Sorry about that. But you will have to look hard to find anyone older on the slopes at Vail, his favorite gateway. Cooper was born in Chicago on the eve of Great Depression. He is 81, an age for many when the most of strenuous exercise of the day is getting in and out of the bed. His tennis and his skiing are better than they have ever been. Cooper is still in the game, awaiting the next big thing in wireless communication. He is convinced that the cell phone at 37 is still in its infancy. Technology has to be invisible, transparent, and yet simple. A modern cell phone in general has an instruction book that's bigger and heavier than the cell phone. That's not right, Cooper said. Call it the complexity or confusion factor. Cooper argues that cell phones designed to do everything, take pictures, play music and videos, surf the web, don't do any of them really well. He thinks the buyer should be dictating exactly what they want. The consumer is king. The consumer ought to make the decisions, and certainly not the engineer, Cooper said. Engineers tend to get influenced by the technology itself, so it seems only natural that the latest gadget developed by Cooper and his wife is a retro cell phone, called the Jitterbug. It's a basic phone. There's no camera, no music. Any idiot can operate it. It sounds simple enough. If you can hear a dial tone on Jitterbug, you can make a call. If there's no dial tone, you can't. He is developing so-called smart antennas that can cut through all the competing noise in the radio environment to get your call through. And what they do when we transmit, we send the information only to a phone. Let us go for a moment back to the future. The cell's precursor, the car telephone, came in the right after World War II. A tiny radio transmitter sends your voice out on the airwaves to the nearest central station, where regular telephone operators can connect you with any telephone on land or sea.
Each transmitter is the heart of its own separate area, or cell. As a vehicle drives from one cell to another, advanced electronic equipment at a central location called a mobile telephone switching office automatically transfers the call by telephone line to another cell without the caller knowing it.
Even then, it was clear that being connected would put everybody on very short leash. And when in the 1960s, AT&T developed more sophisticated cellular antennas. AT&T stand for American Telephone and Telegraph. The phone giants still consider car phones the name of the game, but Cooper and his engineers at Motorola thought otherwise and decided to elbow their way into the business. They really had a basic understanding that people are mobile and it's personal telephones they wanted. It's handheld portables, Cooper remembered. So there was a real conflict between this giant, which was AT&T, and this fly, that was Motorola. But this fly ended up winning. On a chilly spring day, Cooper back to the spot where he made the first call. 6th Avenue outside the New York Hilton. For the record, the call went to Joel Angle, Cooper's rival at AT&T. Cooper said, Joel, this is Marty Cooper. He says, hi, I'm calling you from a cellular phone, but a real cellular phone. A handheld portable cellular phone. And there was silence on the end of the line. Cooper
I took a chance and called Joel Engel. Dr. Engel was running the AT&T program. And I said, hi, Joel, it's Marty Cooper. Hi, Marty, he says. I'm calling you from a cell phone, but a real cell phone. Personal, handheld, portable cell phone. There was silence at the other end of the line. To this day, Joel doesn't remember that call, and I'm not sure I blame him.
Man and machine will become one. The optimum telephone is the one that I think someday is gonna be embedded behind our ears. It's gonna have an extraordinarily powerful computer running the cell phone. In 1983, the world got the first ever portable mobile phone in the shape of Motorola Dynatec 8000X. It cost an eye-watering of $4,000 and was a huge status symbol at the time. 2 years later, the first mobile phone call on US soil was made. In 1989, Motorola followed up the Dynatec with the 9800X or Microtech. It came with a fold-down keyboard cover and set the standard for the flip phone form factor seen throughout the 90s. From here on, the evolution of mobile phones get accelerated and get boosted in our world of technology. The cell phone has changed and developed so rapidly in the past decade that it seems as though almost anything you can imagine is possible for the future. The convergence of all our tech gadgets into one mobile device will continue to advance. The majority of the hardware and the software can be moved to the cloud, and the product will mainly be comprised of the input and display. The smartphone will eventually completely take over the market. Within a few more years, I expect regular cell phones to disappear entirely. We may not even call cell phones smart. Just drop them to altogether. The way we stopped saying color TV and hi-fi stereo. Cell phones of the future will be adopted to appeal more to our emotional senses. I believe in the future, cell phones will become even more naturally in sync with our biological reflexes and processes such as eye movement, thought process, kinesthetics, and cultural preferences. It's not just about how we will change the cell phone. The question is, how will the cell phone change us?